Hello and welcome back to RageGamingVideos and a new Shadow of Erdtree build video. Today we are talking about the newly buffed Rakshasa Great Katana, which was previously a solid DLC weapon, but hard to justify, especially in the DLC, for its trading nature because of its unique weapon skill, Weed Cutter, which with our new patch of 0.13 we have seen improved. All they did was one thing: increase the speed of Weed Cutter slashes. With that though, the scaling of the damage is significant. Of course you're going to want successive hits. Of course you're going to be building up bleed and getting the AR procs from that. And by doing all of that quicker, you're scaling the damage faster and more consistently, even in smaller punish windows. While of course you will likely trade with this weapon, the faster attacks allows you to get off at least the first 1-2 hit, even in smaller windows. And we're more commonly being able to see a follow-up, so 4 hits total, in most every fight. If you're able to time things perfectly though, the damage potential is amazing. Over 30k easily in one of these full wombo combos, and you're going to run out of stamina well before you run out of FP on this. Still very cheap to use. We want to highlight a build that's going to maximize this weapon because it's going to become more popular. It's cool to see a measured improvement to a weapon though that's so effective like this. Again, all they did was increase the speed of the attacks of Weed Cutter, and yet the result is a smoother experience and a much easier weapon to use. You're more reliably actually getting the burst that this weapon can do, off in a bigger variety of situations. Really, I think it's only going to be better for original boss fights where those windows are a lot more forgiving, and now just a lot more viable against those DLC ones with the shorter windows to do so. So, to say the least, I want this video to be a showing of why Rakshasa Great Katana is worth using, especially now, and how impactful this buff is, making this one of the better DLC weapon choices you could consider. So let's explain the build, what we're doing, and how we make this as strong as possible. Let's start, of course, with the katana itself. In its max upgraded state, it's actually mostly a dex scaling weapon with a little bit of strength behind it. You only need 12 strength to wield it, and technically you don't even need that. If your starting stats are like 9 or 10, you can two-hand it and not have to worry about that at all. The higher dex requirement is tied to that though. That's how we're scaling everything, just leveling dex. It's fully physical with blood loss buildup, and with its unique skill, Weed Cutter, we're able to get these significant successive hit chains off by simply spamming L2 over and over. Each time you press it, you're going to get 2 hits off, and it feels like the follow-up hits are slightly faster than the initial wind-up, just because that initial wind-up does have this kind of flourish the blade behind you, then you begin swinging, and then the follow-up just seems to come out straight away. What's dangerous about that you need to be aware of is that the input delay will occur. I've stopped pressing it now, and it's still sent out another one, which definitely catches me out in boss fights where I need to stop. So I would strongly recommend, just in general advice, that you press it, let it do its thing. Okay, looks like I can go for another. Yeah, I can go for another. And that's how you should use the combo and when you should press the follow-up. Outside of that, it is just a great moveset for a great katana, very vertical or thrusting, and the charged heavy has great range to it as another thrust. Now in terms of seals, I am just running the Frenzied Flame seal. The reason for that is that, yeah, it just weighs nothing at all and the requirements are nothing. So it is a great seal to run just for saving on weight, but since we're only using self-buffers, it doesn't really matter how we're going to scale this. As you might imagine, for the incantations then, we're running Golden Vow for the damage increase and the defense that provides, running Flame Grant Me Strength for the damage increase that's going to give us, and then I really recommend Bestial Vitality. This is actually one of the most efficient, cost-effective ways to get healing over time. It is very minor healing over time, but that is relevant when we're trying to trade and sustain through the damage we're taking. This is because during a fight, we may want to trade and often will. If that's an option and we're able to get more hits off and even kill the enemy because of it, it's worth doing. Having that sustain from just a small little incantation is worth running. As we get to our Rune, we're going to run for that, and the Wondrous Physick, that'll become more and more important. But first, let's discuss the armor, which is pretty obvious. Since we're getting bleed procs, why not run White Mask? It's going to increase our attack power when a blood loss occurs nearby. That's going to happen very early on in a fight. For the rest of the set then, we're running Rakshasas, just because this is going to increase the damage we're dealing. As usual, it does say that it increases the damage you take, but it's not exactly true. It's just that it doesn't have great damage negation compared to other sets. You can see how it's got like 11.2 physical, and the thing next to it has 13.5. For its weight class, it's just providing less negation than you'd expect. That is well worth it for the damage increase, so that's why we run it in most meta builds. Next up then, we have the Talisman. As you probably imagined, we're running Shadow of Alexander for the damage boost to Weed Cutter itself. Of course, we're going to get a bleed proc during the fights, so Lord of Blood's Exaltation. That's going to give us another attack power boost whenever a bleed occurs, and then we'll reapply when it runs out and the next bleed goes up, just like White Mask. Then we're getting a lot of successive hits, so Millicent's Prosthesis combined with Rotten Wing Sword Insignia is the classic. The reason we're running Millicent Millicent's prosthesis is because it's also going to raise your dexterity, and since this mainly scales with dexterity, those extra 5 levels are very nice. If you don't have that, a great alternative will be the new two-handed sword talisman, since we're going to be two-handing the weapon the whole way. So those are the talismans. Let's now talk Wondrous Physick, where I'm running Blood-Sucking Cracked Tear and Thorny Cracked Tear. Thorny is the successive attack power booster, and it's the best way you can get that up. It's so potent. But then Blood-Sucking Cracked Tear is going to increase your attack power by a massive amount, but drains your health over time. That's where this is really deadly, because we're already trading with this build to then be losing health over time. That's scary. So lifesteal is essentially very important. The bestial vitality is going to heal us over time, but also our Great Rune, which you'll want active in every boss fight. We go for Melania's because you actually recover health after damage is taken, kind of like the rally system from Bloodborne. So as you trade and take a hit, you're landing your own hits and healing back through that, on top of the vitality passive healing. This counteracts a lot of the negatives of, say, the armor and blood-sucking itself, keeping you sustained throughout fight and maximizing our damage. So that's an important thing to think about. I would strongly recommend you maximize your damage for a build like this, where you're looking to trade if it's worth it. This just makes trading worth more. However, if it's too much for you, I would consider changing it for Opaline Hard Tier, which is going to boost all damage negation by a significant amount, allowing you to take hits and simply take less damage from it, and then you won't have the health drain, so things will be a lot easier for you. But your DPS potential will be a lot lower, so that's your choice. Lastly, for the build then, we are level 150. We run 60 Vigor because you absolutely want as much health as you can get. 16 Mind is the nice breakpoint for all the incantations and being able to make sure you can always weed cut. 25 Endurance might be overkill. Having more stamina means you can do more weed cutting and rolling when you need to. I do like it, but we reach the minimum strength required, and 78 dex in this case because we're getting +5 from our Millicent's prosthesis. If you have more points left over, I'd go to 80 dexterity, and then the rest of our points bring us to 25 faith to be able to use our incantations for those buffs. So pretty simple stuff for the stats. But there you have it. That is our overview of the Rakshasa build in patch 0.13. With the new speed of Weed Cutter, the DPS potential is awesome, and we think maximizing the output at the cost of, the life drain, and then countering that with bestial vitality and the rune, you can sustain through even trading and certainly the damage over time from blood sucking. The result is incredible DPS combo through those successive hits. Getting a 4 or even 6 or even 8 hit combo off is devastating against any boss. So, you can really see the potential of it. And, one of the funniest parts about this is the fact that it's just so easy to do. There isn't any special thing going on here. About the hardest part is just making sure you don't overcommit to Weed Cutter, because as I explained earlier in the video, it does have a bit of input delay on it, where you can accidentally start the next Weed Cutter when you definitely don't want to. I think this is a well done buff that's not gone too far, making the damage too good or anything like that. I think it finds itself in a very solid place now, and more than worth using in this patch. So if the video has been useful or helpful, please do drop a like. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.